Gerber daisies, they call them in the grocery store. The florists will call them gerberas. We are in Carpinteria, California. Mark Hayes from Flowerbud01 is going to give us a tour of one of the most exotic and certainly one of the most popular flowers in America.
Gerbers. In the trade, we call them gerbs, right? This is a flower that originates from southern Africa, in the eastern Transvaal, actually, which is now, under the new South African government, is called Mpumalanga. It's been in cultivation for about 30 years now. There's 1,000 varieties around the world. In the facility that you're standing in today in California, there's 240 varieties here. The breeding work is all done in Holland now. The new varieties are flowing in all the time from tissue culture laboratories in Holland. They're grown on. They're put in the greenhouse here. A month later, they start producing, and the plants that you see here and around about the greenhouse are in situation for 2 years. And they cut stems every day from these plants for the next 2 years. Obviously, nature can't quite provide all these different colors. So the breeders look at what the fashion industry is doing, what the paint industry is doing, stuff like that. So they can breed different colors to cater to the public whim of any given year. In some cases, the flowers will dictate what paints and materials are going to come out next year. Sometimes it'll be the other way around. Pink and peach is where it's at right now. Greater vase life and color are the two main places where the research is going on. So when we're in facilities like this and you see the qualities of the flowers and you see when they're picked and how we can ship them to you, these flowers can last a long, long time for you. These plants are meristems. They're grown in tissue culture laboratories in Holland, flown into this country in igloo coolers, and then they're put in a little greenhouse here, grown on to a certain size, and then put into the greenhouse.
Wow, are they tiny. Now what are we going to do with the pot?
I'll show you what happens to these little plants.
Okay.
These little things are flown in from Holland.
Right.
This grower here buys his varieties. They fly in from Holland. They come in these little pieces of greenery from a tissue culture laboratory. They're planted in these little pots and grown on in this really quite high humidity greenhouse.
Right.
They're grown on to a certain stage, and then they're put into these basalt plugs. This is rock wool made out of basalt rock, and the pot sits in here. This little plant is going to root into this block, and this block is then going to go into the greenhouse in the hydroponic system. And food and nutrients are flowing underneath this plant all the time. The plant isn't grown in soil at all. It's just grown in a continuing stream of water and nutrients.
So everything we've been looking at has been hydroponics.
Correct.
I didn't realize that when we were there.
Yep, no soil. And the liquid, every now and again you hear liquid, you hear pumps going on and off. It's in a closed loop, and what isn't utilized by the plant gets recirculated, it gets cleaned up, more fertilizer added, so on and so forth. And it just goes around and around and around, and these guys are eating and drinking 24 hours a day.
Okay, this is clearly the next stage, but these are not developed plants or ready to bloom, are they?
These are about ready to go into the greenhouse.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
So when will these burst into bloom?
These will burst into bloom about a month after going into the greenhouse.
Oh, wow.
So you can see the little rock wool blocks, you can see the pot in the block, it's all rooted in, and it's now in this tray, and it's ready to go into the hydroponic system in the greenhouse. The greenhouse is divided into blocks, and when one block gets to be 2 years old, then the entire block gets replaced.
I do not see a bug in this place. Every single leaf looks picture perfect. Millions of leaves in here, and not one of them's dead. How do they do this?
That's interesting because Gerbers they're prone to everything. Everything under the sun. Thrips, whitefly, leaf miner, you name it. Now, once upon a time, that was all controlled with agricultural chemicals in these environments. Now we have what we call biological controls, and predatory insects are released into this environment on a regular basis. So going on around you right now, you've got millions of bugs eating other bugs. So the bugs that actually eat the flowers are getting devoured themselves by the predators. So there's a fine balance that you have to work there, because it means you really can't come in with chemicals at this stage of the game, because then you take out your predators. So this facility is actually running about 80% biological control. And within the next 4 or 5 years, at the maximum, it'll be 100%. All these plants have breeders' rights on them. They're all patented. So this grower, he buys the plants in from Holland, and the deal is that you cannot resell these varieties. These varieties are grown under license, so at the end of their cycle, at 2 years, all this stuff is destroyed.
When you pick a flower, what is the right time to pick these, and what should we be looking for when we select our plants in the flower shop or in the grocery or whatever?
The little yellow spikes here in the center of the flower are the stamens. And the perfect time to pick this flower out is when there are 2 rows of stamens showing. Now, if you look at this flower here, there are no stamens showing, it's too green. Now, if that flower gets picked now, what will happen is that it'll rubberneck. In gerbers, there's 2 causes for rubbernecking. One of them is picking when it's green, like we just discussed. The other is bacteria. And the bacteria comes from the water that they're generally standing in. The bottom of the stem is where bacteria can congregate, and if you have a long stem, it gives you a chance to cut an inch or 2 off it every now and again to keep the water going up that stem.
Now, why do we put flowers in a cooler? Why do you do this?
Quality control again, keep them cold.
Why?
Preserves their life, slows them down some.
How long do they stay in here?
A day.
Really?
Yeah, the flowers are going to come from the greenhouse.
They're warm in the greenhouse. They're nice and hot.
That's
in the
right.
Greenhouse. They come in here and they chill down.
Right. They chill down and they start drinking water.
Ah, okay.
Right. And if everything is working right in the marketplace, these will stay in here just 24 hours. These will be shipped tomorrow. It'll all be gone. There's 2 or 3 ways to ship these flowers. They can go in cards like this. He's making color arrangements for wholesale customers, and these will go in a bulk pack. So the customer has ordered a color mix, so he's just slotting them in these cards, which will then go in larger boxes.
Okay, so these are going in so the stems are supported, right? They just go right down through the bottom?
Correct.
Oh, look at this. They're all sitting in a bath.
After the flowers are put in the cards, they then come onto these hooks into this bath, and there's Clorox in this water. And this is this cleanliness issue again, the bacteria. Before they're packed, the bottom of the stems have got clean water, Clorox on them to prevent any disease.
Oh, look what's going on here. This is how they get packed.
This is how they get packed for the wholesale trade.
Right.
2 trays per carton here, and then they go in a master carton. These are about the most delicate flowers that we ship. Okay, this is Flowerbud's version of the larger boxes you saw for the wholesale trade. We designed this box specially to move these trays of 20 daisies. We put batting in the bottom of the box and this little piece of foam here around the stems that prevents breakage of the stems and the flowers in transit. This tray gets stapled into the box so the flowers and the stems are above the box, and this is the vase that comes with this order. And the vase sits in here. The stems of the gerbers fit in the vase. It's all sealed up. It's stapled in. It's sealed up. FedEx picks it up and it's on its way to you.
Mark, once again, you've been a guest on the show a couple of times this year, and I just want you to remind the folks again why we're here and why Flowerbud.com is different.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Flowerbud.com is an online company that opens the doors of the growers of the United States to the retail consumer so that we can get flowers of this quality here into the hands of everybody in the United States.
Aren't they beautiful? Thank you so much for providing that facility for us.
You're more than welcome.
If you'd love a beautiful bouquet of Gerber daisies like these to come to your home straight from the grower, get on the internet, flowerbud.com.